Hello Ace family. Today we're going to go over the car batteries. We have, in addition to car batteries, we're going to have RV batteries, which are bigger on the bottom. I don't want to pick up in this video. We've got power sport batteries that are going to be a little bit smaller, more compact, and then we're going to have like common lawnmower batteries. And I just wanted to make sure we had a really good overview, a really good general understanding of the batteries, because there's some really simple bits of knowledge that can make it a lot easier to help a customer. So the general process is 80 or 90% of the time, a customer is going to either come in with a picture of the label for their battery that they have to replace, or they're going to physically have it. And there's actually good incentive for them to physically have it. So how all batteries are sold everywhere, which was unique to car batteries basically, is there's what's called a core charge. And so what that means is all the prices that we have are with the core exchange. And what that is a battery, even if it's dead, might have $10, $15, $20 of recycle value to that. So instead of us having higher prices, just like everywhere else, they do the net difference between them. So usually if you have a dead battery, you go, okay, great, I need to exchange my old one. So we give them a cheaper price. We don't make any money on, what the core charge would be, but it is a recycle value where we can get that processed, get some money out of it, get the customer a good price, and then be good for the environment too. So hopefully that makes sense. If I could explain it another way, it would probably be anyway, the prices are a net difference with the core charge. If the customer does not have a battery to exchange, there is an added fee on top of the retail price that we do, and that is standard across the industry for battery sales. So it is a little bit more expensive if they don't have an old battery to exchange. Usually they don't work, and that doesn't matter. A battery is a battery. The components get melted down to be reused. So hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, so the prices are with that core charge, with that battery exchange. And then when it comes to that customer journey, when they come in, 80 or 90% of the time, because of that short core charge, they will have the battery and say, hey, I need this one. Like, okay, no problem at all. When that actually happens, there are a few key numbers that we look for. The amp hours, I'm going to tell you, doesn't matter. It kind of does, but we'll cover that later. So there are amp hours on a battery label, and maybe I can bring one a little bit closer here. Amp hours, and then usually there's a lot of other part number information on it. But really what we're looking for is what's called a BCI group number. And so there is a standard across all battery manufacturers that say, hey, this is our group number of this battery, and that determines the outside dimensions. So batteries generally, you'll have 6-volt batteries, 12-volt batteries. There are some 8s, and you might get into 24s as well. And most everything we stock is a 12-volt. We can order 6-volt, so like car batteries might be a 6-volt battery. We can absolutely order anything that we need to for a customer. We've got a huge inventory that we can pull from, but generally what we stock, it's 12-volt. That's going to be your side-by-sides, your ATVs, all your car batteries, and then you get into the bigger truck batteries and RVs. Those are most often 12-volt batteries. So that matters. The 12-volt matters. The amps, not necessarily so much. And so the reason I bring that up is because if it's a 12-volt battery, it's a 12-volt battery. We've had situations where a customer might see a cheaper battery that's close in size to what they have, and go, well, man, I'll just take this one, it's okay. and that is totally fine. It's not the correct battery per se, but the most important thing is that it fits. You can always go a little bit smaller with a battery, but you can never go bigger because the space is tight. Sometimes the cables don't quite reach right, and so when it comes to those batteries, if you have that situation come up where someone's in a pinch, somebody needs it, maybe they don't know the exact size, or the battery they need is maybe a hair more than one of a similar size that might be smaller, they might not get the same power, the same amps out of it, but it is still going to work as that car battery. So just so we kind of cover all the points there. So when we're looking for a battery for a customer, we're looking for some sort of a BCI group number. And did you have the phone? Okay, with that picture. So there's a few different labels, and that applies to power sports batteries for ATVs and UTVs, but it also applies for cars. And so sometimes some of the brands will, so this is a battery, instead of lugging the whole battery in here, I don't know how clearly can we read that label. That's okay. Okay, so we've got our cranking amps, cold cranking amps, and then reserve power, and none of those numbers matter too much. What really matters is the group number. And so looking at this label, this is a group 24, and usually it's evident. So like 24, 27, 65, 96, they're generally 2-digit numbers. And then you might have like a power sports battery. I've got an example here that you're looking for something close, and it's not a perfect system. Not every manufacturer puts it on. We looked at someone's car this morning just to have an example. You know, that's about typical, isn't it? Okay. Oh, okay, I gotta hold the phone the right way. That'll help. Okay, so let's see. How's that on the screen? You can see that. So usually it's easy that you can pick out like a 2-digit number. This battery doesn't correlate to any BCI group number, unfortunately. They don't always put it on. This is an OEM from Toyota, whatever battery they stuck in. So when it's not easy, when the customer doesn't have the battery, when the customer doesn't have a battery that lines up too well, what we go from there is we either take the battery if they brought it in, and we can measure the dimensions and we can match it up to something, and we very rarely don't have the correct battery. We have 99% of the batteries that folks will need, that folks will use. So we can bring it in here and we can measure everything and we can try to match it up. But the easiest is if it has that group number somewhere on it. And again, that group number's some sort of a 2-digit number. Sometimes like a lawn and garden battery, it might have a letter in there, but as you get familiar with it, you'll kind of get used to what we're looking for, and the 2 digits is definitely a good place to start. So customer brings that in, we can measure the outside dimensions of it, and we can get something here because we will have something that lines up perfectly with that. If they do not have the battery with it, and they do not have like a label or picture of the label, or they don't know, then the third option is to be helpful. We can try to Google some of the, like the car. So if you have a 2014 Ford pickup, Ford F-150, we can type that into Google. Sometimes the batteries change, and that's not, sometimes the internet will pull up several different group numbers, battery group numbers that it could be, and it's kind of hard to tell. That's why it's kind of the last resort option. I'm giving you the easy stuff first as we work down that list, but it might pull up. I usually try to check 2 or 3 different websites to see if they all match before we get the customer, just to try to go the extra mile and give them a battery that we're pretty sure will work, because it's hard to tell without the battery. And then you've got that core charge factor in too, where if they're going, we say, okay, well, we've got to charge you, but when they bring that battery back, we can give them a return on that core charge, and really easy, and that's a good way to confirm. But when it comes to just trying to match it, first resort is, hey, BCI group number or measuring the battery. Last is trying to Google the make, model, and year to see if there's some consensus between the top 2 or 3 websites, and that seems to be decent most of the time. Does take a little bit of work, but anyway, we're here to take care of the customer in any way we possibly can. So that's a good kind of general overview of looking for a battery. Sometimes, so like this is a power sports battery, and this particular battery I thought that the group number might be 10 on a power sports battery, but we didn't really have a 10. So in this case, I just opened some boxes so that we could make sure we could compare and find something of a similar size. And I did. It was, I think our part number was oh goodness, ETX5 is off the top of my head, but in this case, could not find the BCI group number, that part number on there. So I just started comparing the size, and we found a match that was perfect. One other note that you kind of have to pay attention to is we might have 2 of the same battery, and that's kind of weird. But the reason for that is these 2 batteries right here are exactly the same. The only difference is which side the positive and negative are on. And so that's important just for looking at cables, having that in the back of our head, so that we can be mindful of that for the customers, because the copper's expensive. The manufacturers usually don't give you any more copper to be able to switch that around on the wires, and there's usually not hardly any extra length to go along with those. So we just have to keep that in mind too. And then after we get the customer the battery, we handle that core charge. If they get the price that's on the shelf, if they have that battery that they can give us, if they don't have that, we'll go ahead and charge it, but we can be sure to let them know, hey, we'll give you a credit as soon as you bring an old one back. Does have to be a similar size. We can't have them take this battery and then do this battery. It's got to be close. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but the point is we just can't have a little one for a big one. But that I don't think has ever happened, so we don't have to worry about that too much. So as far as we get that checkout clear, so I want to just summarize the steps one more time. They come in hopefully with that BCI group number, and then we can look at all of our car batteries, all of the power sports batteries, and then our lawn and garden batteries, which all lawn mowers pretty much take this battery right here. So our part number is a 11U1R, and then we also have an L, and that just designates which side the positive and negative battery is on. Most riding lawnmowers are going to take this battery, so we sell a ton of these so that we can have them for the customer. So hopefully that makes sense on how to look for those. The common questions that come up with customers are, hey, there's several other brands of batteries out there. Are yours any good? And the answer is yes, of course. Selling bad products makes for really unhappy customers, and we really like our customers to be happy and come back to us time and time again. But to give some data to back that up, our supplier is Dept Batteries, and they manufacture and sell all their own batteries. They do a great job. We've had great luck with all their warranty stuff, and they're just really quality batteries. We very rarely have a battery that we have to do a warranty on. But when it comes to other manufacturers, there are some out there, and I don't want to point any names, but there are some very large ones, especially in our area, where they don't actually manufacture their own batteries. What they do is they give it to these, they send their batteries out for bid to large battery manufacturers, and whoever has the cheapest price, they slap their label on it and they sell those batteries, even though it's not necessarily, it's not them that manufacturing it. They have no manufacturing capacity. They just strictly are a license on the battery for their name, and that's fine. They want to do it, they've got more money than I'll ever have, and obviously it works. But where our supplier manufactures their own batteries, I feel like they care a little bit more, and we can take care of customers because of that. So that's really awesome. Number two, the number two question that comes up is with the amps. So before I told you the amps don't really matter, and I'm going to still stick with that and telling you that the amps don't really matter. Basically, the amps give you how much power that battery can produce, how much it can have, and so the size is more important, that the battery fits where it's supposed to, and whatever equipment, whatever automobile it's supposed to go into. So that's, the size is most important. The amps are secondary, and this does come up from time to time that we have to explain it, and that's because people want the most power, especially when we're negative 20 here. You want to make sure that that's got enough power to go ahead and start your vehicle. And so some folks will say, so we're going to go back to this competitor battery here that we had from a core charge. Our cold cranking amps on this battery is 460 degrees, or 460 cold cranking amps. On our battery right here on the shelf, it says 650. So that's great value to the customer. And in that particular case, this battery, the customer is going to be happy. They're going to be getting more power. The alternative, the other situation that can happen is our battery says 650, and the customer's battery they're exchanging might say 750 or 800. In other words, their battery is sitting at more cold cranking amps than our batteries are, and it is a direct correlation to power. And so some customers ask, they go, oh, I don't want a battery with less power. And we go, well, wait a second. Actually a lot of competitor batteries rate their batteries on the cold cranking amps at 32 degrees, at freezing. Our manufacturer, Dept batteries, they rate theirs at 0 degrees. So I don't know why there's not a standard, why everybody didn't say just 32 or 0. And so, but it's our job to provide some of that customer training and knowledge to that customer, to present that information for them, that go, hey, no, don't worry, our battery, it's gonna have the similar, if not more power. It's in the BCI group, it's made for that specific task that they're doing, but ours are rated at 0 degrees. And so that lowers the power output rating for the label, whereas a competitor might be 32 degrees. 32 is a lot easier to start something at 0. And so ours are 0. Sometimes that comes up, and anyway, as soon as we explain that, they go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I'll take the battery. And so now you have that knowledge to be able to present to them. The only other thing I can think of that I'd really want to make you aware on the batteries is a lot of these are regular batteries. When you get into RV or like semi truck batteries, They're what's called a deep cell or deep cycle battery, and it's just it can have a longer draw on the battery, and it's made to like if a truck driver is sleeping in their cab overnight, they don't have to have the engine running, but they can have some lights or the radio going or fridge plugged in or whatever, and then it'll still start the truck in the morning. And the RV applications, the semi-truck applications, are meant to have that longer draw for that vehicle. And so we have 4 batteries that do have that longer draw. They're on the bottom shelf, but again, usually you're switching those batteries like for like, so you don't have to necessarily have it top in mind. Just keep in mind some of the truck batteries. Look at the post. There are 2 batteries that we have that are exactly the same, but one has a threaded post. It looks like a bolt sticking through so that you can tighten a nut. And then the other one, the exact same battery, but the post has one of these guys instead, where the battery clamp clips to the outside of it instead of having that threaded connection. Almost all of our batteries have this, but when you get into those bigger RV batteries, it just doesn't hurt to check just to make sure you get it right for the customer. It's a little detail that's easy to overlook, but it's also really easy for us to pay attention and make sure we can really take care of the customer the first time, so that we can convenience them, not inconvenience them. When we get beyond the truck battery, an example of like those truck batteries, everything I've told you so far is like a 2-digit number. You're looking for like a 3-digit with those truck batteries. Our part number is like a 1131 or a 131, but it's obvious they're bigger, they're heavy, and when they bring them in, it's easy to look at. The common RV batteries that folks will have to bring in is going to be like an M2 or an M3 is our part number, and we're just looking for something close. Our manufacturer Dept batteries, so the group number on this battery is a 24, the part number is a 624. So this one right here is a group 27, our part number is a 627. So you just kind of have to read that part number loosely, whether it's one of ours or a competitor that they bring in for a core, and just it's kind of a closest to, and that will probably get you 80 or 90% of the time taken care of. So how do you feel about that? Did we good? No questions? Okay. Well, we'll go with that. Hopefully I did okay trying to be detailed, but of course, if I didn't quite get there, please ask questions. We can update this, make sure that we get everything right the first time, and keep building and developing that knowledge. So as always, let us know if you have any questions, and thank you. Alright, since we made the main video, we just had another part number come in that I just wanted to make sure to show you. So just looks like this maybe came straight from Ford out of an OEM vehicle, and just looking at this, I'd say that group number is 65, that's where I would start, and then it does look like a group 65 battery looking at it, and matches up perfectly. So just wanted to show you another example of what looking for that BCI group number was. So thank you.